you collect anything? I know you do collect keyboards.
Yes, that is my primary collection. Um, Me and my wife also collect, and this is it's so corny, but I love it. We also collect fridge magnets
Nice.
from places we go, and that actually came from my grandmother. She always collected fridge magnets. Her fridge was literally on all three sides that were not against the wall covered.
Nice.
Um, and it's just something I really enjoyed as a kid. So we get fridge magnets from places that we've gone and visited.
We started doing that,
Yeah,
and there's something really fun about it
yeah,
because you stand there, pulling your eggs out, and you're like, I remember going there.
exactly. And it's a good conversation piece. Another thing that I collect um, is Bucky's gear. I love Bucky's. There was a moment I put out a single a couple years ago called Hatin'. Go check out the music video. It's amazing. It's probably my favorite video I've ever done. It was definitely the most expensive video I've ever done. But uh during that time when I was promoting that single, I was on a campaign to become the first official Bucky's model. So like all of my like promo videos, I would have Bucky's gear and I was tagging Bucky's. For those who don't know what Bucky's is, it's a gas station chain that was founded in Texas, and each Bucky's has like over 100 pumps, which is amazing. They have the best bathrooms, extremely clean. They have handmade jerky that they make in house, handmade fudge that they make in house, pralines, which is like sugar covered pecans that they make in house, and a bunch of other really good food. And then they have like their own brand of pretty much every gas station snack you can think of, energy drinks, their own brand of mints, their own brand of gummy worms. Um, yeah, and it's just an amazing place. It's hard to describe. If you ever see a little beaver on a sign, you need to pull over and go.
So we had a freelancer drive to work during our holiday rush last year, and he lives in North Carolina,
Hmm.
and he drove out here because he just moved to North Carolina,
Oh, okay, got it.
um, to be with his dad, and I I think he stopped at Bucky's because also there's like one day I was like three or four people all had like Bucky hats. I was like, what happened?
Right.
Where I was like, you brought gifts, didn't you? Because
Yeah,
so I don't think I've ever actually been to one, but I know it because it is a thing.
it is a thing. It's iconic. You have to go. If you guys are ever on that side of the country, you have to go. The boys will love it. Jess will love it. You gotta go. And I would say the last thing that I probably collect would be gear,
Yeah.
drum machines and keyboards primarily.
You have some mics too, though, right?
I do have some mics, which that is a collection, but it's more,
It's tools.
yeah, it's tools, but and you know this because we know that you collect a lot of things.
Yes.
And we were just talking about this before we started this, but once you get into something, I don't even get into certain things because I know, like for example, my bass rig, I have a few pedals. I know what I like. I keep it at that. I don't start researching pedals
Don't do it.
because if I go down that road, I'm already like that with guitars and basses. I'm already like that with keyboards. I'm already like that with drum machines and all rack studio gear, reverbs and different things. It just gets so expensive and you're trying to explain to yourself and if you're married to your spouse why well you already have three drum machines. Why do you need this one? Well, because you don't understand.
Your wife can probably hear you.
Right? She gets it. I mean, it's like you don't understand. They made this one in 85 and it was used on this record and by these people and like you can only get so many. I mean, I would say my most like grailed piece that I have is my Cheetah MD16. Cheetah is a company that was in the UK in the 80s and they were defunct by the late 90s. But they got bought out by some software company. But they made this drum machine called the MD16. It was like one of the cheaper drum machines you could get at the time. I spent,
Isn't that usually the case?
it's usually the case.
Like everyone picked up Les Pauls because no one else wanted them at the time.
And
And
then they
now it's
become,
the Holy Grail.
it's the Holy Grail. And I think that goes back even to the conversation we were having about, your process and motivation. It's like you cut your teeth in those poorly lit rooms, not having the gear, not having the stuff, and that's what makes you great. And it's those pieces that end up being these iconic pieces that people use,
Yeah,
because it's what they could get. But yeah, when it came out, it was probably a $400 or $500 piece of gear, which is really cheap for a drum machine back then. Um, and I spent over $2,000 on it. But
hey, I've been there.
you can't find them. I challenge anyone watching this video, if it does come out, find a Cheetah MD16 for sale. You're not gonna find it. I saw one once, and then I didn't see another one for 8 years. Yeah, so that's my favorite piece of gear that I have. But I love drum machines. I love synths. I think, obviously there's always software plugins, and I've done some comparison videos on my YouTube. They're the same. They sound the same.
Yeah,
They do. But there's something really special, and I know as a car collector you can appreciate this about holding something in your hand. There's just something intangible. There's just I don't know if it's spiritual, I don't know what it is, but
probably.
I think so. There's something about it. And like even I opened up my one of my other favorite pieces I have is the Ensoniq SQ80. It's a keyboard. I had to open it up to change this battery that holds the internal memory inside. And the guy who inspected it, he signed the circuit board. And that's just like
You just don't see that often
you don't
anymore.
see that anymore. There's something special about the way that I feel about making music. A guy felt that way about creating this keyboard. And I mean, it gets me emotional. That's
I thought I saw a tear for me.
you're right. It's just there's something about that. Um,
Well, it's funny because there was a point where I love my favorite style of music is like 80s hardcore.
mhm.
It you know I was lucky enough to see 7 Seconds play a couple times
Wow.
because they still play occasionally. But like Minor Threat was like
Pioneers.
I mean just incredible. And I look at the photos, they're all playing Les Pauls and Marshall stacks,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't want a Marshall stack. I can't even turn on my little amp,
You're
you know.
right.
But I'm like, I think I need a Les Paul. So I started saving money, and I'm like, I had saved about close to 2 grand. I'm like, I'm gonna get a Les Paul standard.
hmm
And the more I thought about it, I was just like, these things are heavy.
Yes.
I have a Duesenberg, which is
hmm
very similar to it.
Extremely.
So I'm like, I'm not getting anything different. And then looking on Reverb, I found a 1953 Gibson Archtop,
Right. That I love that thing that you
and
have, dude.
I'm like, I couldn't get it out of my mind, and I ended up buying it, spending all the money I had saved for the Les Paul, and I don't regret it at all. And I think that might be one of my favorite pieces. Although the Duesenbergs are special to me because I did photos for them, and I'm like, I don't want your money, just give me a guitar.
Give me a guitar.
And he did, and those things are, I hope to hand those off to my boys at some point. They're just beautiful, sound amazing. But like that Gibson, I'm almost scared to bring it out sometimes.
I know.
But I used it in that intro video, and I was stoked to do that.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I mean the sound, it's player grade. They had to replace the bridge, and I think they um, fixed some cracks, and I ended up having the bridge pinned because it was a floating bridge. Tuners are new and stuff. So it's totally player grade. But man, it just has so much character. And sounds incredible.
It does.
And it's just like, yeah, I made a good choice.
You did.
And I think, it's, the money is something to think about, but it's like if a piece sticks to you, it's good to own the original.
Yes, you get it, dude. You understand it.
But like the hard part is having money
Yeah, that is part of it. That's the part I try not to think about.
because I mean, like you said, you didn't see one of those for 8 years, so it's like you almost have to be saving the whole time, just hoping that you find it and are able to just do it.
Yes, there was full transparency. There was credit card debt involved. But it
But I mean,
was worth it. It was a no interest card. I paid it off.
but but it's also again, you're like, I haven't seen this for 8 years. This is my chance.
This is my chance.
And then I don't know. I think I hate debt, but I think we've all been there where it's, I had to do that for camera gear a couple times because I'm like, I have to have this,
Yeah.
you know, to, I might not need this one, but I tried to buy used as much as I could and got the cheapest things I could in most things. But there's a point where, photographers and musicians are more than capable to create with any tool.
Factual.
But there's a point in your profession or your journey where it's good and okay to upgrade.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does require debt.
Yeah. Sometimes it does. And it's like you said, there's something I think as you grow in ability and as you're growing in ability, you're growing in wisdom and knowledge. It comes a point where you understand what you're actually getting and why it costs what it costs.
Yeah.
Um, and you can run a more accurate cost benefit analysis in your mind and be like, you know what? I need this thing because it's stuck to me. I've marinated on it and this is the thing I need,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And yeah, you mean I'm sure you've heard it too, but like the musicians like get stuck in a funk
Hmm.
and so they buy a new guitar.
Yes, I'm
And
all
it's
for it.
and it's like and then they write their best album ever.
Yes.
And it just took that like change or newness to inspire some creativity.
Yeah. And I feel strongly about that. And I know we're going to talk about current projects, but that's the whole thing behind the project that I'm working on right now. It's all about the gear. I have a message and things I want to say, but the birth of the project was from the gear. A friend of mine had the same drum machine, a TR-707 from Roland. If you ever get a chance to shoot for Roland, please let me be your assistant. Please let me be your assistant. But there's just, and even my wife, who's
I do trades.
you're right. Okay, we'll figure
We'll
something
figure
out.
it out. Like
Um,
we'll do whatever you need, but we need this and this.
yes, we do. There's something about it. And even my wife, who, she does play music, but she's not like a music producer like I am. Um, the first track that I made with it, as soon as she heard it, she was like, I understand why you bought it. Yeah. And it's just, yeah, I could, those samples come in Ableton. I can make the same song with the samples.
It's different though.
It's different. It's
Well,
literally
it's the
different.
feeling of it too, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not just punching a MIDI controller. You're touching the real thing. Totally different feel.
Totally different fit. And what a lot of people don't understand is like when it comes to these drum machines and the keyboards as well, like when you're talking about like the key beds and stuff, which is why I really love my SQ80, there are the way that they made it, especially if you're talking about vintage gear, there were limitations. Now I can open Ableton and do anything, do it in any timing. But when you're working with a circuit board that was made in 1982, there's only so much resolution. So when you're trying to do some certain things like 30-second notes, or you're putting a certain swing on it that's built into the gear, it's something that you cannot replicate without the gear, to the point where like in Ableton there's a thing called grooves, where like if you want to put a certain swing on a drum beat or something, they actually have the MPC swing from the Akai MPCs, the MPC 60s in particular, where the way that it encoded the information and spat it back out, it had a certain groove to it that you can just not, you can't automatically program that. It's not possible.
It's not gonna be the same.
It's not going to be the same, you know. Um, and I know what. So what do you collect? Because I know you collect a lot of things. We know you love collections.
Jeez, changes all the time. Well, not really. I think right now, um, my youngest loves Hot Wheel cars,
Hmm.
and because we would always look at them when we go to Target, I started researching them and kind of like learned that you can find special ones. And I found a few that I'm like, ooh, I like how that looks. So I started collecting those, um, which is just torture to to my son. I have a bin full of unopened Hot Wheels, and it just drives him nuts. Um,
That's so beautiful as a child that he sees it for what it is, which is a toy, but it's also a collector's item.
I mean, most of the ones I have aren't. I wouldn't say are collectors. They're just. I found a couple styles that I liked,
Hmm.
and so my thing is I stay try and stay in that style,
Right.
and I just try and collect those. But I
Good that you have parameters.
yeah, I don't know in all things, but for that one, I'm trying. I don't like a lot of like the modern or fully made up cars. I like they have a like a Chevy Bel Air, I
Hmm.
think a 53 or something, or I like the hot rod that they probably had in like the 50s or something. So I like ones that could be real, or just like I grew up with my best friend down the street. His family was really into cars. So I think I even sent a picture to his dad recently. I was like, my Hot Wheel selections are evidence that I hung out with you guys
Right.
throughout my childhood, because he had his first car was like a Mercury Cougar, I think like a 67 or something.
Wow.
His dad drove a El Camino, like an old one that he fixed up, and it's just so I went to like some of the car shows with them or swap meets with them where they just looked for old car parts, and so that style just resonates with me. Um, so I like Hot Wheels, and I love that there are also like $1.25.
Right.
So I
It's
don't
a
feel
great collection to have.
you can spend $5, get four cars, and it's like you have that satisfaction of getting something new that I'm starting to hang them up on the wall at work now, and it's just I enjoy looking at them still. Like I will stare at them sometimes and just go, they're just fun. They're just fun things. I just tell my son, I'm like, this bin is for you. I'm just saving it.
Right.
um, so because of the cost, Hot Wheels are the easiest thing for me to collect. Um, I love baseball cards mainly because that was something I did with my grandpa.
Right.
Um, so I got back into it recently because I was trying to reorganize his bins and bins of baseball cards that I have, of his. Most of them were junk, but it's just when I brought those out to kind of resort, it made me remember how much fun I had doing it, or buying them as a kid. I still haven't quite figured out how I want to do it.
Hmm.
So I I've spent money on some new cards, and I started because I started watching YouTube videos, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. Um, but what I liked about it was it got me watching baseball again.
Yeah.
And I've had another it like made me get connected with the game again.
Hmm.
And I think that's what I really love about that. Um, because even as a kid, I don't remember watching a lot of baseball. Occasionally, my grandpa was a huge Dodgers fan, big Angels fan, so I remember following it. But now it's like I'm engaged in the game
Yeah.
again. And baseball has been more accessible than hockey. Hockey was like my ultimate sport,
Right.
but it's just so hard to watch now because you have to have a certain thing, or if you get, you know, one package, you may not get the Kings games or, whatever. It's just like, so I just follow it on Instagram and email at this point. um, so for hockey, I'm like, I don't even know half of the new players anymore. But so I get some Kings players occasionally, but growing up in the 80s, 90s, um, when Gretzky came to the Kings in 1988. So from 88 until, I mean, really, when they won the Stanley Cup in 2012, um, I religiously tried to follow Kings. But I like the 80s and 90s players, so I look for their cards, even though they're not really valuable. But those are the players that, I remember. Um, so yeah, baseball cards.
I think like what you spoke about for people who are watching this who don't understand collecting, I think they'll have a deeper understanding for it because what we're talking about is the thing, the drum machine, the card, the magnet, but it's really the memories
Hmm.
and all the meaning associated with it. Like that is what you're collecting.
Right.
And the memories that you're creating, like even doing that with your grandfather and then now being able to do that with your boys and
They
then
don't understand
reconnect
the
to the,
baseball cards yet.
they don't get it yet.
But I think my youngest kind of understands the Hot Wheel thing because he likes Hot Wheel cars. And so sometimes, if I buy one that I'm like, this is mine, and he's like, oh, I really love that one, I try and buy another one and let him play with it.
Right.
So I'm like, it's $1.25. Yes, I'll buy that for
Right.
you. But something that, that has been a just left field um, collecting thing is gemstones.
Yeah.
But I think that part of that goes back to my mom was a jeweler.
Oh, okay.
Like she didn't make it, but she worked at a jewelry store.
Right.
But she learned all about diamonds and colored gemstones. And actually technically she has like initials after her name because she got all the certificates for it.
Oh, wow.
She says she can't remember any of it now. Um, but I got into it because my son was into dinosaurs. So we would look at some of these like read about dinosaurs, and they talk about, how their theories of how the earth was created and stuff. And there's a lot of geology involved in that. And then you
Hmm.
learn about the minerals in that, and you're just like, wow, that's amazing. And so I would get him a book to, read about rocks or something. And then I read it and go, this is amazing.
Right.
And then, um, and two, it's like, you know, as a Christian, I see just the creativity of God in it.
Yeah, man.
And Like I was
Yeah.
reading a book that it's like, there's I think like 5,000 minerals,
Wow.
but there's only seven shapes that they are formed in.
That's crazy.
And most of the minerals are useful to us
Hmm.
in some capacity.
It's like they were put here for us.
Yeah. Like industrial medicine, food, cleaning, um, you know, we have figured out how to use these minerals for good.
Yeah.
Um, and then out of, that 5,000, only like, I think there's five precious stones,
Hmm.
diamonds, rubies, sapphires, um, emeralds.
Emeralds.
And it's like, and then when you think about how many are actually gem worthy out of even that, it's like if you have a nice stone,
Hmm.
there's a reason it's so expensive because there's a lot of them, but it's like when you think about it, there is
There isn't.
there's
Yeah.
not. Like the percentage of good gems or gem quality stones is just like ridiculous. Um, but something that what me and my boys did is we found some like there's a mine in San Diego area
Hmm.
called the Ocean View Mine, and I found that you can buy dirt from them, and
Right.
that they mail it to you, and you could just go through it at home. They might throw a couple things in there, just so you have fun, but
Right.
um, I was able to get water out on a hot day, and me and the boys go, shift through it, and we're pulling out cool quartz pieces and stuff. And then, doing more research, I found a guy in Washington who is a lapidary, and I sent some to him, and he's cut them.
Oh, that's what a lapidary is? They cut gems? Okay. I'm like, I have no idea what that
And,
is.
and he sends it back, and it's like, through all of that, we now have this like gorgeous, amazing gemstone. It may not be worth as much as I spent to get a cut, but
Right.
it's like those are some of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I'm like, me and my boys found this. I mean, sometimes I get over it and I find it, but or if I I, I see it, I'm like, whoa, Daddy's gonna grab that one.
Right.
Um, just because, they just see a cool thing and like, all right, cool, and then I may find it later in the yard somewhere.
Right.
Um, because it just doesn't. They don't think about the value of it, but um, yeah, it's like I've had a ring made out of sapphires that
Oh,
we
wow.
found in gravel that I bought from a place in Montana. So Montana sapphire, and then had a ring made, and then my mom gave me some of my grandmother's little anniversary diamonds that I had put in it too.
Wow.
Um, and like even just looking for rocks, me and my boys will go up to the Mount Baldy here, and it's spend 30 minutes just looking at rocks, and they get outside, we get outside, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Like my youngest, while walking around Baldy, actually found pyrite, which the fool's gold,
Right, right, right.
but like beautiful chunks. And then I'm just like, how did you find that?
Right.
And then I think he showed me, or no, I don't even know if he showed me, but we went back like a week later and we found the rock that it came from, and it was like covered in pyrite. So that's now in my garage.
Wow.
And I'm like, how cool is that? Like just walking around, you can find such like fun things, and it's free.
Right.
I mean, mostly, but Yeah, I think the gemstones kind of been fun to talk to my mom about because I think it was something that she really enjoyed at the time, and now it's I'm excited to show her stuff that we found, or you know the person who made my ring was the guy who worked at the shop with her and who's now a pastor, and
Wow.
he does jewelry on the side.
Hmm.
So it's like, and even the gold that was used for the ring, and in high school, the first time I went to Hawaii, I found a wedding band in the pool of a waterfall, and
Whoa.
I've held it on to it for decades at this point. Um, he didn't melt the gold because the refiner wouldn't do it, but he traded me the weight, equal weight.
Hmm.
So I'm like, every part of that ring was basically found
Right.
at some capacity. So I'm like, that's just super cool to me. And I've um have talked to when I ordered the dirt and stuff, I talked to the miners and like this is now on Instagram I'll take a picture and send it to some of these miners and they tell me what it is. And like this is such a cool like community. I don't know. I like too many things.
But it's great because like you said, like the community that comes with it, the memories that come with it. I mean, I'm sure when your boys get older, they'll be like, "Yeah, man, do you remember when Dad used to get that dirt in the mail and we'd sift through it in the front yard and you know?"
Well, what's funny is so I think it was last year, Bo, my oldest, around his birthday, I'm like, I'm gonna just get because he had said he enjoyed it, so I'm like, I'm gonna buy like bags from different mines. I got some like gold panning dirt and stuff. I'm like, we're gonna have fun. Like one bag in out of like the four, just like, yeah, I don't know if I like this. I'm like, well, Daddy does, so you can go inside now.
Right.
But 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 recently, like just maybe even last week, he was just like, you need to get more of that dirt. I'm like, I thought you didn't like it. He's like, well, I don't necessarily like all of it, but I really like seeing the cool rocks come out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So they don't necessarily care for all of it, but they do like what comes out.
Right.
And I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because sitting there over water, shifting a bunch of rocks and muddy water,
Right.
isn't necessarily exciting.
Right. The funnest thing in the world.
I think it's great, but for an 8-year old, it's kind of like I just want to see the cool rocks. I'm like, all right, that's totally fine. But now I'm like reading books on gemstones, trying to actually learn what I'm looking at and how they're made, and it's just super fascinating. Just all the elements that need to happen
Yeah.
in even specific orders. Like things have to happen in a very specific way.
In order for this thing to be created.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so to me, I just see God in it, a lot of it, and they're beautiful. They're
Yeah.
just it's I can stare at them for a while and just all the lights reflecting off of it. It's just cool, and just to think that that came out of dirt.
Right.
Like I have a zircon that which is a bluestone that I had a guy in Singapore when I first started kind of researching. He's a lapidary in Singapore. I just found him on Instagram, had no idea about anything. I just messaged him one time and he was just super helpful and just you could tell he's super passionate about it. So I ended up buying the stone from him that he cut for me that he got the stone directly from the miner in Cambodia. Sent me a picture of the mud hole that he found it in, and it was like I made a hat pin out of it. And I'm like just thinking about so this guy in Cambodia just digging in a hole, found this rock, sent it to a guy in Singapore who made it a beautiful stone, and then he sent it to me,
And now it's on your hat.
and now it's on my hat. And it's just it's incredible. It boggles my mind just the process. And I mean, I was talking to a guy just this week too, and we were even comparing it to coffee. Just like so much, some of the best coffee comes from like third world nations,
Yeah.
and the process of getting it to us, the consumer, like it goes through a lot of hands.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you understand why some things are expensive because there's a lot of middlemen,
Yeah.
but
And a lot of process that has to occur and a lot of expertise that has to occur.
lots of expertise.
Yeah.
Just even like you can't really just go anywhere and dig a hole and think you're going to find something. I've dug a lot in here.
Right. Didn't find
I
anything.
haven't found jack,
Right.
just heavy river rock.
Right.
But so the expertise of seeing a mountain or rock formations and go, I think there's something there. Like it's crazy.
It's a beautiful thing. And it's like, seeing God in that creation and then even, especially with creating collecting something that is natural, and then seeing how God allows us to participate in that creativity with him by cutting the stone and finding the stone and even with those same minerals are the minerals that make the circuit board work inside of my keyboard, and all the
Well, watches have
watches.
sapphire rubies in them a lot of the
Hmm.
time.
And there's just so much creativity involved. And I think God allowing us to be not only created by him and loved by him and be part of his family, but then allowing like his children, hey, you can come be a part of what dad is doing,
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing like it, man. It's
Yeah,
nothing like it.
one of the guys I talked to this week, he actually had an analogy, or I don't know if it's analogy, may be the wrong word, but he's also a Christian guy, and he's like he looked at create his creations as um a way to I guess like honor God. Like his purpose is to create
Hmm.
because he's like I create because I was created by the creator.
Amen.
And we were talking about, if um as creators, we don't necessarily always like our creations
Hmm.
and because we always see the flaws
Hmm.
in it, but there's a point where you just gotta love what you do. And he's like, and to me, I see God in that because God is the creator who created us. Even though we're flawed
Hmm.
and not perfect,
Hmm.
God still loves his creation.
Amen.
And so I was just like, whoa, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea that we as creators can still love what we do even if it's not perfect because
Yeah.
God loves us even though we're not.
Amen.
And I'm like, thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, God. That's so real. And that even goes back to, what we were talking about earlier, like knowing when a song is finished or this is the photo. It's like it might not be perfect, it might be raw, it might be this, it might be that, but it's exactly what it needs to be. Um, and there's definitely something real special about that. Something really special about that.
Yeah. And what he also was saying is like because of that, he's like, I just go into it and go, I'm gonna just do the best I can
Mm-hmm.
and just love what I do.
Yeah,
I'm like, which is very hard as creators.
it is.
I mean, I downplay my stuff all the time
You
because
do.
it's just one, it's I guess you know a bad form of humility,
You're right.
but it's also as the creator, you do see the areas that it's not great, and you also know that one, it could probably be better, and two, someone else could probably do it way better.
Right.
But it's like, but you still gotta be like, I did that, and you still should be proud of what you do to a degree.
Amen. And even if someone could do it, air quotes, better, no one can do it like you.
Sure.
No one can do it like you. Every creation is a one on one. It's the most collectible thing ever.
I mean, yeah, because even if you tried to repeat the same thing, you probably couldn't.
You couldn't.
That's why you can see the same band several times, and it's always a different experience.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Which is why you like to see your favorite band over and over. You know,
Yeah.